Good morning, everyone. I did the brave thing and watched some of the previous Thursday morning uh, breaks and learned a lot about myself along the way, and also realized that I started off every morning, Thursday morning, with all of you. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful for your time, and also to remind you to stretch and take care of yourself. So do that. Remember to get up and move around, stretch. The recommendations 5 to 10 minutes every hour to get up and move your body around, and really focus on taking care of yourself. We started off with a discussion on self-care, and throughout the weeks that we've spent together, I've tried to reinforce concepts around perspective and empathy, around resilience, and all of the things that are important in our lives that help us persevere in the face of adversity. So today I just wanted to really review some of these concepts and talk a little bit about patience through uncertainty for each of us individually and in all of our relationships with our family members, friends, uh, maybe foes, and definitely with the children and families that we will continue to engage with throughout the summer, likely in some capacity. So whatever that looks like for each of you, I just want to spend the next few minutes together really talking about some palatable ways to practice patience through uncertainty, because not only are these COVID times uncertain times, but this whole teacher-led governance structure and your experience as teachers and teacher leaders and administrators over the last year and moving forward into the summer planning and into next school year is really full of a ton of uncertainty. And we have to learn to become comfortable with that. And we've talked a little bit about trauma, and I know most all of you are well versed in the science of trauma, from a theoretical framework, but also in your day-to-day lives with the students that you engage with every day. And I just wanted to introduce this term. You might be familiar with it, post-traumatic growth. But I think it's really good to remember, important to remember, critical to remember that regardless of our life experiences, and sometimes in light of our life experiences, we have the capacity to persevere and really come out stronger. And so often our experiences provide us the strength to move forward, um, and evolve into stronger, wiser, more compassionate human beings. And it's important to remember that supportive relationships are the foundation to resilience. Optimism, gratitude, and agency, or feeling a personal sense of control, are also critical components of building resilience in ourselves and others. And then, of course, having control comes through being able to express our feelings, asking for what we need, asking for what we don't need, and setting little small goals. And so these are things, of course, we want to instill in others, but also in ourselves. This is a conscious act of um, self-reflection and learning to be aware of our thoughts, our feelings, and then our actions without judgment, so that we are more equipped and patient in our work with others who are learning new skills and perhaps learning healthier ways to see themselves, understand their life experiences, and move forward. And we don't have all the answers, and that has to be okay. This is okay. You know, I think sometimes in some of the meetings that I have with you all, looking at planning for next year, we get really nervous because we don't know what things look like or what they're going to look like, or perhaps how to incorporate social emotional learning into our day-to-day lives, into our lessons and practices. And it starts with mindset. We have to know that, first of all, we don't have all the answers and we don't know how it's going to look. It's sort of like if you are cooking and you have all the ingredients out on the table, right? We have a lot of the ingredients. We know what is supposed to work. We know what we're supposed to be doing. We don't necessarily have all the recipes. And even if we did, we don't know how it's going to play out until we start cooking. And so that is really one of the most important things that we have to remember, that we don't have all the answers. And we won't know until we start practicing these different mindsets, right? So empathy, optimism, learning from failure, embracing ambiguity, and creativity might sound familiar. We've talked a lot about these things, and Lori has included them in each of the MCRSD weekly messages. These are all mindsets, and we have to practice these mindsets in order to have the courage to take risk and to fail and to try again. And it's important that we build a culture of safety where we're not always walking on eggshells, whether that's in our personal relationships, in our conversations, but particularly in our ideas. Right? It's important for us to create a culture of safety, and that means that we create space and flexibility for each other so that we have the freedom to take risk and make mistakes. Uh, this is an active and an interactive process. We're not in this process alone. Everyone has to be committed to being courageous and kind. So really, again, it's that balance of how can we be honest and courageous and kind at the same time, and offer each other grace in this exploration of a lot of new ideas and concepts that we're engaging with each and every day. Ubuntu is an African expression. It's really a livelihood and mindset around humanity that really gets to this idea of, I exist in community. I am because we are. And so we can't do this work alone. We have to do it together. And we must create a culture of safety and an environment where we can trust one another to be brave and make mistakes and assess and move on. And I love all of you for your patience with me throughout these lessons with my technology. This embracing ambiguity is a mindset that's included in the IDEO website. We'll share it with you. Lori shares it with you every week, and it is full of really rich information. So I wanted to share this small video with you about embracing ambiguity, perhaps.
I'm Patrice Martin. I'm the co-lead and creative director of IDEO.org. A critical piece of embracing ambiguity is letting multiple ideas coexist simultaneously. That means we're just exploring lots of possible solutions, lots of possible answers, and we don't know what's going to work out. You walk by a room of designers who are in the thick of the analysis process. There, you'll hear things like, not quite sure how this is relevant, but it might fit, or I don't know about this idea, but I want to hold on to it. That's embracing ambiguity, because we're letting a lot of ideas kind of percolate around. We don't know what that answer is, but we know that we need to give ourselves the permission to explore. Design thinking is a process of creating new ideas. We're going through it so we can get to innovative solutions that really work for people. And that means we don't know what the answer is when we start. And that not knowing can be pretty uncomfortable. We're not used to that, but that's actually the point. We want to embrace ambiguity. We want to give ourselves the permission to explore lots of different possibilities so that the right answer can reveal itself.
I know that Lori talks a lot about embracing ambiguity, but it's critical for us in this work because we have to be willing to be creative. And I sort of worked backwards on putting together slides for today. Lori sent me an article about supporting our students with respect to their anxiety around the current state of affairs and this uncertainty, and how do we give them some tools to manage with uncertainty during this time and through the summer. And then I started going backwards and thinking about this idea of creativity. And all of this that we're doing really takes a lot of creativity and courage. And it reminded me of the TED Talk with Sir Ken Robinson, which I'm assuming most of you have seen. And if you haven't, please watch it. It's about 20 minutes long. He's an educator, and um, it's really funny and super inspirational and thought-provoking, right? And so he talks about creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. But in many ways, our society sets us up to be afraid of being creative, right? And he says in the TED Talk, we're educating people out of their creative capacities. But if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original, right? But we're all afraid of being wrong. I know I am extremely afraid of being wrong. But the reality is, in this work, we have to be courageous enough to be wrong and to allow each other to make mistakes and to assess that and to move on. And so in this article that Lori sent me, How to Teach Social Emotional Learning When Students Aren't in School, it references some really small tips and strategies that we can share with students. And Mark Brackett, who I referenced in last week's talk in his podcast with Brene Brown, talks about psychological distancing. So one thing we can focus on ourselves also, and that we can help guide our students and anyone in our lives in focusing on, is this idea of psychological distancing. And so this makes sense to all of us. How many of you have a friend that reaches out for advice about something and you see so clearly what they have to do because you have distance and space from the issue? You're not emotionally attached or as emotionally attached as they are to whatever it is that they're grappling with. And so it's much easier for us to give objective advice to individuals when we don't have the same emotional attachment. And so psychological distancing is this tool. So when you're thinking of something, you're feeling something, you have strong emotions, big feelings around an issue, think of someone else having the same experience and then how you would support them. What are some of the things that you would say to them to help motivate them? How would you help them see that perhaps their storyline that they're telling themselves over and over is not getting them what they need, or perhaps is harming them? So this is much easier when we have space from an issue. So psychological distancing is a very, very easy tool that we can share with others and use ourselves, right? Because it really encourages us to take perspective and look at the stories that we're telling ourselves and whether or not those are helpful or harmful. So practical applications of social emotional learning and distance learning, as incorporated in this article that is very short. I recommend you read it. And these are things you're probably already doing. Many of you are already doing. So the more I think about SEL and application of SEL, I think of the things that you're doing in school, in classrooms, in the community with the students, on field trips, during activities and lessons, and you're doing these things, right? So social emotional learning is helping students understand how to incorporate basic skills into their day-to-day lives. So when we send daily notes to students, we're strengthening these skills. When we have morning community check-ins with students, we're strengthening social emotional learning skills. Reading books is something we all enjoy doing, and we enjoy being read to at any age. I mean, if you're listening to an audiobook, someone's basically reading you a book. So reading books to students isn't something just for our littles, right? This is something that we can do with students of all ages. So when we read books and reflect on some of the social emotional learning themes of the characters, this starts to reinforce these concepts in our students' minds and helps them incorporate this knowledge into their day-to-day lives. Rituals provide comfort, right? Rituals give us a sense of control because they're predictable. So anytime any of us create a ritual, we are creating a sense of safety and control in our brains and in our bodies. And so anytime we can create rituals and reinforce them and stick to them, we are creating a sense of safety and control, which we know now from all the science. When you feel safe in your body, it opens your brain up for learning. When we don't feel safe in our bodies, we don't have the space in our minds to pay attention, to regulate, to communicate effectively, and ultimately to learn new ideas, because we are too occupied with protecting ourselves. So themed weeks, any type of theme, which I know we've been doing throughout the last several weeks, are really important to keep up. So these are small things that we can do over the next couple of weeks to really start to continue to reinforce these social emotional learning themes. Journaling or drawing, or if you do them together, journaling or drawing our feelings and experiences through prompts. Not all of us like to journal, and we might think of it as really like woo-woo. But it doesn't have to be really woo-woo. We can provide prompts for students and tell them to draw what comes to mind, or just start to write stream of conscious. It doesn't have to be structured. These activities start to help our students be able to express their feelings and emotions. And a lot of times just getting it out, whether through drawing or paper, or even if we encourage students to move, these are all ways that help us as human beings start to regulate our feelings and emotions. Sending inspirational videos is something you can do, making a quick video and sending it. And I know we have lots of different platforms on social media to engage in this content. But in the article, it really talked about this being a great, easy, simple strategy. Send a quick inspirational note to a student or a colleague for that matter. And then breathing exercises. This comes up over and over and over. The first most important thing we need to do to calm our bodies and minds is to breathe. And so really normalizing very short, quick breathing exercises is another tool and strategy to build social emotional learning competencies. And remembering that our actions impact others is another strategy that was incorporated in this article. So helping our students understand how their actions can impact others through, really, if we're talking about this current pandemic, again, reinforcing this idea of, okay, if you're really scared about what's going on right now and you feel a sense of anxiety all the time, let's focus on things we have control over to keep ourselves safe and to help us be safe in our relationships. So it seems silly, but remembering and reminding students to take care of themselves, wash their hands frequently for 20 seconds, right? This will give them a sense of control of how they can manage right now dealing with the situation. But it also is a social emotional learning competency in helping our kids understand how their actions impact others. Appropriately covering our mouths and nose when we cough and sneeze, again, helping kids understand that these are simple ways that we can protect ourselves and be safe for others in our lives. Understanding why we are wearing masks. These are ways, another way that we can help kids feel like they have a sense of control and understand what's going on out there in the world right now. And then talking about the importance of being physically distant, but socially and emotionally connected. We shared Bruce Perry's podcast in the very beginning of the school closures. And again, he reminds us that the term socially distant is really the wrong term. We need to stay physically distant, but socially and emotionally connected. And it's important for us to be kind and supportive to ourselves first, our friends and families throughout this, because all of us are going to have different levels of comfort with this current pandemic, right? We're all going to have different ideas about how we want to navigate this time and our level of comfort in engaging socially. And we have to not be judgmental about that. And that involves a lot of empathy. And so teaching empathy is one of the cornerstones of social emotional learning. And we have to first learn to embrace this concept in our own lives. And empathy is really about taking perspective without judgment. And I want to share this video again from the design kit.
My name is Emmy Kalawale. I'm the editor-in-residence at the D School at Stanford, currently on sabbatical from the Washington Post. Empathy is, well, there's a textbook definition. Empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. But it's more than that, I think. I think empathy is it's a chance to fall in love. It's a chance to hate. It's a chance to be completely other than that which you usually are. And in so doing, to discover so many other things about life and about living. Well, empathy lies at the heart of human-centered design because people are at the heart of human-centered design. It's about understanding. And in order to have true human-centered design, you have to understand the people you are designing for. You have to understand their needs. And you have to be able to seize that moment that that just happens when you're really jumping into somebody else's situation, somebody else's shoes. I can't come up with any new ideas if all I do is exist in my own life, in my own existence. In order to get to new solutions, I have to get to know new people. I have to get to know different people, different scenarios, different places. I have to travel. I have to immerse. I have to dive into something completely different. Yeah, if you're not surprised, I would hazard a guess you're doing it wrong.
I love that because the reality is that this is uncomfortable work. And in order to do the work, we have to be willing to take perspectives outside of our own. And that seems simple, but it's not. It's really challenging. And we have to remember for our own selves that this is a work in progress and that, the individuals that we engage with every day are in their own iterative process of life. And so what we're doing in our schools involves iteration, but what we're doing in our own lives personally involves personal growth. And this takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a willingness to be courageous and creative and to make mistakes and to do dumb things and to say dumb things sometimes and to perhaps hurt each other unintentionally, but be willing to come back and evaluate and make changes and then repeat the process all over again. Education does not make us educable. It is our awareness of being unfinished that makes us educable. And I love this quote because nothing is more true. This is a work in progress, and it's going to take a lot of patience and perspective. It's going to take courage and creativity, and it's going to take all of us being willing to show up for one another each and every day. And so I thank you all for your time and your patience, and I look forward to working with each of you moving forward.